Like it took guts to murder people and put them in chains.
He was a victim of his time.
Who cares? It's what he did.
He discovered America is what he did. He was a brave Italian explorer, and in this house, Christopher Columbus is a hero. End of story.
Oh, boy. Here we go. Apparently, Donald Trump is deciding to bring back Christopher Columbus Day, or as Trump puts it, bringing it back from the ashes. We're going to have a conversation about it, and we're going to get into the nitty gritty on why Trump is deciding to quote unquote bring this back. And the reason why I put it in quotes is because it was never gone. All right. It was a federal holiday. It was never not a federal holiday. However, Biden did put something forward to make it Indigenous Peoples Day. And a lot of states then saw it as Indigenous Peoples Day. But Biden and his administration was never able to pass it through to get rid of Columbus Day as a federal holiday. So Trump may be just bringing it back like he decides to bring back a lot of others just from a branding standpoint. I don't know why he's deciding to do it. We're going to take a look at it. What are our thoughts? What are our opinions? Is a slap in the face to somebody that's a Black American or whatever you want to call it. I don't even like the whole Black. Let's not get into that. Yeah, somebody that's an American. Somebody that's an American. Is it a slap in the face? Donald Trump celebrating and wanting to bring back Columbus Day? And is it a slippery slope on both sides to bring it back or to get rid of it? Let's say if somebody got rid of it as a federal holiday. Let's get into the video. So the first video that we're going to check out, we're going to look at CNN. We're going to look at CNN. A lot of people say I don't ever go to the CNN. Actually, I go to the CNN. I still look at the liberal mainstream fake news every once in a while. I just judge it accordingly. I look at everything objectively. All right, let's get into the video right now.
Like it took guts to murder people and put them in chains.
He was a victim of his time.
Who cares? It's what he did.
He discovered America is what he did. He was a brave Italian explorer, and in this house, Christopher Columbus is a hero. End of story.
Hero, colonizer, victim of his time. What's old is new again. That clip from HBO's The Sopranos highlights a now decades-long debate over the legacy of Christopher Columbus, a debate raised once again by President Trump. In a post on Truth Social, he wrote, quote, "I'm bringing back Columbus Day from the ashes. The Democrats did everything possible to destroy Christopher Columbus, his reputation, and all of the Italians that love him so much." Just to be clear, Columbus Day is still a federal holiday, though in hundreds of cities and multiple states, it's been replaced or put alongside Indigenous Peoples Day. That's a shift that began in the 1990s and gained traction, especially after this proclamation that President Biden issued commemorating the day back in 2021. We should note, multiple bills were presented to make Indigenous Peoples Day a federal holiday in 2023. None of those pieces of legislation made it to a floor vote. So let's step back. What makes the second Monday in October so controversial? It starts with the facts surrounding Columbus himself. Now, critics of Columbus argue that he didn't actually discover America. Despite reaching the Bahamas, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and Haiti, he never reached the United States, which celebrates Columbus Day as a federal holiday. They also point to Columbus not actually being the first European to set foot in the Americas. That was Norse explorer Leif Erikson, who doesn't get a federal holiday despite arriving some 500 years before Columbus. And if this is really about who got to North America first, Indigenous people had been living in the Americas for centuries, many in massive metropolises, especially in Central America. Still, it doesn't diminish the fact that Columbus bravely ventured into seemingly uncharted parts of the Atlantic Ocean, literally putting them on the map for Europeans. His arrival also sparked a new world of change, including what's known as the Columbian Exchange, a term coined by historians as an interchange of people, animals, and ideas, which became the foundation for global trade and globalization and all of the nice things we now have. He did also exchange diseases and slaves. Decades after his first voyage, The Taino people, one of the most populous tribes of the Caribbean, were near extinction because of the diseases brought by the Spaniards. His arrival also meant the enslavement of native populations. In fact, this is what he wrote to Spain's King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella, who financed his trip, about his first voyage. Quote, "There I found very many islands filled with innumerable people, and I have taken possession of them all for their highness, done by proclamation and with the royal standard unfurled," and this is important, "and no opposition was offered to me." Keep that in mind. He also wrote that natives should be very good servants. To that point, the year after his arrival, Columbus began sending enslaved Tainos to Spain for sale, something that, in his day and age, during colonial times, was accepted as good business. A slave business that over the next 4 decades contributed to the death of 7 million Tainos. And back to that no opposition line. There it is. During his time as governor of the Dominican Republic, various accounts point to Columbus massacring natives in response to their opposition and their efforts to fight being enslaved. His heavy-handed response alarmed even his fellow Spanish colonists, who reported him and accused him of mistreatment. Columbus was arrested for misconduct, though he was ultimately acquitted and did lose his governorship. So, does Columbus Day deserve to be celebrated? Clearly, the president thinks so.
What if you could not only feel better, but feel better than ever? Hone Health helps men like you.
As I listened to that, a lot of thoughts ran through my mind, and I wanted to make sure that I play it the entire way through for all of y'all, so you can get the full scope of what the gentleman was presenting. If we're talking America first, then perhaps Donald Trump should look into who was the gentleman that he mentioned, the first historian, the actual first historian, who I believe he said came here about 500 years before Christopher Columbus, and Christopher Columbus never came here. So this man never touched foot. He never touched American soil, United States of America soil. However, we celebrate him for conquering the Caribbean islands and maybe certain parts of Central America. It's a slap in the face. It's a slap in the face, and I think it's important for people that do support Donald Trump, see themselves as more conservatives like myself, to be real and honest about it. It's a slap in the face. It's not necessary. It's extremely insensitive to a large number of Americans. And let me be clear when I say Americans, right? You celebrating Italians. So you're celebrating, saying that it's important to the Italian heritage, right? Let's go back to, I'm just going to pull up his tweet that he put up. 1 second. Let me pull this up. All right. So this is Donald Trump's Truth Social. It says, I'm bringing back Columbus Day, or I'm bringing back, hold on. Can you guys see it? My fault. All right. It says, I'm bringing back Columbus Day. I'm bringing Columbus Day back from the ashes. I made the same mistake that Buddy made. I'm bringing Columbus Day back from the ashes. The Democrats did everything possible to destroy Christopher Columbus, his reputation, and all the Italians that love him so much. This is America, Don. This is America, Donald. So therefore, we're celebrating somebody from Italy. Now, so we're celebrating somebody from Italy, right? Celebrating somebody from Italy and celebrating not anything that they did in America. It would be different if we're celebrating an Italian American, but we're celebrating an Italian for them conquering the Caribbean at the expense of indigenous Americans that were there then, and a lot of us are still here now. Now, depending on what history you learned, my last statement may throw you off a bit. But just think about that. You're going to slap in the face actual Americans who perhaps have been here in America long before America united and became the United States of America. And you're going to celebrate this Italian or Spaniard, whatever he is. It said Italian. You're going to celebrate Christopher Columbus, even though he never even came to America. It just doesn't make any sense. Right? It just doesn't make any sense, in my opinion. And it's one of those things where you're jumping out the window to gain some level of support, perhaps from a particular group that I don't think you need to jump out the window for. I don't really know what that's about. And for the people that celebrated Joe Biden for calling it Indigenous Peoples Day, and I clapped for him. I still clap for him. But I think a lot of us were thinking that he actually got rid of it or changed it from a federal holiday standpoint. That's just not the case. Donald Trump, you do not have to do this. Now, am I going to not support Trump anymore? Am I going to turn and go the other way and beg the Democratic Party to accept me again? Hell no. Hell no. But I'm going to offer criticism of anybody, just like I think men and women should do. We should be able to offer criticism. Matter of fact, it's more important for us to offer criticism when it comes to the people that we are fans of, support, celebrate, idolize. I don't idolize, but a lot of us do. Because we're naturally going to overly criticize the people that we're not fans of. But what ends up happening, the people that we are fans of, we tend to support, we tend to lessen our standards and morals when it comes to justifying and rationalizing the things they do. So we justify and rationalize us supporting them. Nah, I'm gonna give you a little feedback as somebody that rocks with you. This ain't it. This ain't it. Now, am I gonna lose sleep over it besides even Trump? Nah, not gonna lose sleep over it. It is what it is. It is what it is. I'm glad that we're reminded of what Christopher Columbus did in some ways. Glad we're reminded. It should bring about some conversations on history and learning the real history, not just, that fabricated, watered down history that was taught to us in schools. So I don't really have much more to say on it. It's a slap in the face. Christopher Columbus, there's no real reason I see Donald Trump doing this. I didn't see that there was a big push to bring it back. Maybe I wasn't aware. Maybe there was something underground or something that just kind of flew over my head that I wasn't aware of people trying to bring this back. But nah, we got to be careful who we celebrate. We got to be careful who we idolize. We definitely do. But also, we got to understand how the world works. And how the world has worked for a lot longer one way than it has another. And what do I mean by that? The world, to the victor go the spoils. To the victor writes the history. The victor creates a country that is favorable to the victor and people of that particular victor's demographic, the people that are closest to them. That's how it's traditionally been. But if we really want to be the greatest country that we want to be, that thrives on natural diversity, not forced diversity through DE&I, but thrives on having all different types of people coming together and uniting and being less divisive, then I think we got to be careful with things that we celebrate and the people that we celebrate, especially when you look at the history of that person and what it's done. And it's almost as if, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, it's like you could never celebrate Hitler. So why can you celebrate Christopher Columbus? Not to compare both, I'm just asking a question. We can never, and it just came to my mind, we can never celebrate Hitler. And Christopher Columbus came and conquered other people who were minding their business, not even around, right? Different situation. I'm not justifying one or the other. What I'm saying is both, based on both situations, how are we not allowed? How does you're not allowed to say anything good about Hitler, but Christopher Columbus gets a holiday. I'm sure you guys will have an answer for me to rationalize and justify your stance, but perhaps take a step back and really think about what's going on. Think about what I'm saying. All right. There's no ulterior motives here. I'm just asking the question. If it's bad to celebrate Hitler for all the evil things and atrocities that he did, and we don't celebrate, maybe, I don't know, if I'm sure Hitler was successful at something in his life, and we choose not to highlight those things because it's insensitive based on the other things and the impact that he had, obviously, to Jewish people and others. But isn't that the same thing with Columbus Day? And this is what I mean about having consistent energy. People pick and choose the battles that they want to be on. We want to be righteous and for a cause in this area. But then when it comes to Israel and Palestine or Russia and Ukraine or this situation, that situation, we don't keep the same standard and moral compass. We adjust based on what's favorable to us. We adjust based on, oh, well, this person, I can't say anything about that. I kind of got to align based on some business dealings or based on my friends, or I got family over here. So that is how we look at stuff, whether it's the Carmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf situation. I strongly urge my guy, I strongly urge my guy, Donald Trump, to reconsider this and to perhaps change your perspective as you look at a lot of these things moving forward. Yeah, I'll leave it there. Y'all let me know your thoughts. Please make sure that you like, subscribe. It helps grow the channel. We're putting in the work to make sure that we can give y'all as many videos as possible, give y'all as much of our thoughts, our intellectual property, giving them to y'all as possible. And we just ask for a like, subscribe, and if you're feeling real generous, maybe even share the video with some friends and family. And on that note, and definitely comment. That's the most important thing. All right. Give us your feedback. I want to learn. We want to learn. So the more perspectives we're able to soak up, the more we're going to have a well-rounded view of the world and gain that wisdom, right? It's not always about knowledge, but gaining that wisdom, how the knowledge works. All right, I'm not going to go on a tangent. I'll see y'all soon. Appreciate y'all tapping in.